Stop me if you've heard this one before. Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty was released on November 13th, 2001, and anybody who played it on November 13th, 2001 would witness one of the greatest plot twists in video game history. Up to the day the game was released, all the trailers painted it as a direct sequel to Metal Gear Solid, in which you play as returning protagonist from the prior game, super sexy super spy Solid Snake. And while the game did start that way, Solid Snake suddenly died a painful death. The player is then thrust in the shoes of the game's permanent true secret protagonist, super sexy super whiny baby Raiden. During the game's events, we learned that Raiden, aka Jack, was trained within VR specifically to become a functional clone of and literal replacement for Solid Snake, even having played through Snake's prior missions in VR just as the player had played through them as video games. Nevertheless, this Jack guy is unmistakably not Solid Snake. Raiden is a completely new character who had never even been hinted at existing, either in or out of universe. Not only was Raiden never in any of the trailers, those trailers deliberately lied to the audience, showing Solid Snake running through sections of the game where, in reality, only Raiden is playable. These deceptive trailers tied directly into the game's narrative. See, one of the many threads in Metal Gear Solid 2's plot is this whole thing with information control. The rapid spread of information on the emerging internet sprouts convenient lies and half-truths which drown out the complex truth. Long story short, several of the characters turn out to be an AI designed to filter the noise and the overabundance of information, control the narrative, and decide what is ultimately true. Similarly, in real life, this new protagonist was scrubbed from existence in all pre-release material, constructing a narrative about a much simpler sequel where you'd just get to pretend to be Solid Snake blowing up terrorists again. Same old, same old. The real truth, including Raiden's very existence, would only finally be revealed when players played the game themselves. Gamerchamp, says my completely correct prediction of the comment section. This video is absolutely pointless. Anybody who's anybody knows that twist. And you're right, everybody does know that twist. Because that twist is a very convenient lie. Have you ever wondered why for the most part I only do VG Myths episodes on really old games? People are constantly coming to me and saying, "Miss Gamerchamp, Pokemon Gen 9 is out! You should make a video about it!" And my response is always, sorry, I can't. I haven't finished Pokemon 3 yet. See, most of the popular games that come out nowadays are sequels, and I like to play video game series in release order. I can't play Pokemon 9 until I play Pokemon 8, which I can't play till after Pokemon 7, which I can't play till after Pokemon 6, etc, etc. People always tell me I don't have to play the prior game to play a new one, but in my experience that has literally never been true. If I play Pokemon 9 now, I won't have any context for what I'm supposed to know and what I'm not. I'm constantly wondering if I should be going, wow, I love this super cool new Jigglypuff Death God Bomb Evolution mechanic, or, oh cool, I got an Elderchipuff, my old favorite, now I just need to find a Pazuzu Chew to complete the pentagram. I know it's small and most people wouldn't think it's a big deal, but at the end of the day, best case scenario, I can either play the totally new to me Pokemon 3 and definitely miss nothing, or play Pokemon 9 and definitely miss something insignificant. And there's always the chance you'll miss something incredibly significant. Now, I have a confession. I haven't actually adhered to these rules religiously. Sometimes I'm lazy, sometimes I want to play games my friends are playing, and sometimes I'm a dumb, stupid baby. Hence why, as a dumb, stupid baby, my very first Metal Gear game was Metal Gear Solid 2, which I happened to accidentally stumble upon among a family friend's shared library. And wow, if you thought the game was a trip normally, imagine not only never having heard of Metal Gear Solid before, but also never having played a game with a narrative more complex than Super Mario Sunshine. A few years later, I decided to atone for my sins and go back to play the entire series in release order as God intended. Metal Gear, Metal Gear 2, and Metal Gear Solid. The end. They were very cool games, and I learned absolutely nothing. A few years later, after playing all the real Metal Gear games, I was itching for more Metal Gear, so I settled for the dumb stupid spin-offs nobody cares about. And while I couldn't play these in release order anymore due to my prior time as a dumb stupid baby, I did the next best thing. I kept the internet by my side to have a good idea what I was supposed to know and what was supposed to be new. Enter Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel, which I'm gonna say is really awesome and legitimately one of the best games in the series, and definitely the best Game Boy Color game of all time, but that's besides the point. The last thing you do in Ghost Babel will likely be the special missions. In this post-game unlockable mode, you play through in-universe VR missions, reliving Solid Snake's mission except with minor differences, such as instead of fighting a rogue special forces unit, you're fighting Donkey Kong. These aren't just bonus minigames, they're actually occurring in-universe. In between each VR mission, a character named Number 4 reveals hidden backstory behind the events of the game. This dialogue makes it clear that in these special missions, you are not actually playing as Snake. You're playing as somebody else playing as Snake. And I bet you've already figured out who. Some of you may have just dropped your jaw. Others are probably thinking,
come on, Gamer Champ, so what? It's just a silly little reference to Metal Gear Solid 2.
Which I'm sure the rest of you already know is literally impossible. That's right, Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel was released on April 24th, 2000, a full year and a half before the release of Metal Gear Solid 2. In fact, I did a little digging and it goes even deeper. Metal Gear Solid 2 wasn't even revealed to the public as a game in development until E3 2000, taking place in May of that year. This changes everything. Not only had Raiden's existence been confirmed before Metal Gear Solid 2's release, his existence had already been confirmed before Metal Gear Solid 2's trailers tried to hide him in the first place. If anybody had been paying attention, if anybody had been playing these games as they came out, they wouldn't be saying, wow, I love this super cool new Raiden guy, I especially love how he slips and falls on bird poop. They would instead be saying, wow, we get to play as Jack again, and I gotta say this realistic bird poop was just the character development he needed. We had access to the truth not just from the beginning, we had access to the truth since before the beginning. The truth is, Raiden isn't a new protagonist. He's a returning protagonist, coming back directly from the immediate prior game. But that truth got drowned out, and even when one or two people noticed, it could never breach the surface of the community's simpler adopted truth. And the really brilliant thing is, Konami didn't have to lift a finger to make it happen.
The digital society furthers human flaws and selectively rewards development of convenient half-truths.
Raiden's reveal as the protagonist in MGS2 was well hidden during development. Almost nobody outside of the development team knew that Raiden existed.
They stay inside their little ponds, leaking whatever truth suits them into the growing cesspool of society at large.
To many gamers, this was a devastating blow. Not only did the marketing seem to lie to us, never mentioning the existence of Raiden once, this new character seems to be the antithesis of everything Snake is.
Just as in genetics, unnecessary information and memory must be filtered out.
They never once showed us what 90% of the game was actually going to look like. They never hinted that Raiden was going to be a thing. He isn't even on the back of the box.
Not even natural selection can take place here. The world is being engulfed in truth.
Who is this? This isn't Snake?
Well, that's Raiden.
What? Where's Snake?
No, this is new guy. That's Raiden.
But he wasn't on the box. He wasn't... There he is!
What?
There he is!
Oh my god,
Look at
Raiden!
him!
There he is!
Oh my god!
Very Raiden!
He's right in there!
Holy cow!
Nobody took Ghost Babel seriously. It was a silly little handheld spin-off that didn't even have the decency to be canon. If Hideo Kojima didn't direct it, you can obviously skip it without missing anything, right? Of the few people who've played it, far fewer bothered playing past the post-game to even see the final cutscene. And of the people who did play that far, those who played it at the time of release probably didn't commit it to memory. Consider this: the twist doesn't have any lasting impact unless you'd already played Metal Gear Solid 2, a game which came out a year and a half later. If you'd never heard of Raiden before, then the final plot twist at the end of Ghost Babel is the incredible revelation that some guy you don't know or care about is named Jack. Sure, it's a direct hint at the next game in the series, but nobody's going to think it is. Imagine if at the end of Yoshi's Cookie, there's a final post-credits quest, and your reward for beating it is just a blank screen with a text box reading, "Good job, Steve." I highly doubt there'd be that many fan theories saying this dumb, stupid spin-off was hinting at Steve being the secret true protagonist of Mario 64. And as for the people who played Ghost Babel after Metal Gear Solid 2, they'd only understand the full magnitude of the reveal if they both paid attention to the release dates and were aware of the whole MGS2 lying trailer thing. To almost all players, it went completely over their heads. Either the Jack twist is underwhelming because who the heck is Jack, or it's underwhelming because like, oh, I'm playing as that Raiden guy in the Donkey Kong minigame. So, to this day, when you check Raiden's Wikipedia article, it says this: first appearance, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. As far as the greatest cliff notes of human knowledge is concerned, that's the truth. And to make things even more complicated, it's not technically a lie. Everything I just told you in this video, it is still only half the truth.
You accepted the fiction we've provided, obeyed our orders, and did everything you were told to. The exercise is a resounding success.
Is Ghost Babel actually Raiden's first appearance? The answer is Wiggly Hand. In the lore, Jack is playing through these VR missions, meaning the player is literally playing as Jack. But it would be equally true, and depending on your perspective, even more true to say the player is playing as Snake, since, well, look at the screen. That's Snake! I press the button, and he does Snake's famous snake things. The Wikipedia article's listed first appearance is arguably a lie, but if we're willing to change it, it's still arguably a lie. Can you really call Ghost Babel Raiden's first appearance if he literally does not appear? Not only is the dude visibly represented with a Solid Snake avatar, he never even says a single word of dialogue. The only tangible evidence he exists is dialogue directed towards him. For this Wikipedia article to be true, it would have to look something like this. Oh, and by the way, this truly true version still isn't really the truth. Yes, in Ghost Babel Special Mode, you play as a soldier named Jack, playing as Solid Snake in VR. It's unmistakably intended to be a reference to the upcoming MGS2 character Raiden, but he's not Raiden. It is definitively legally impossible for him to be Raiden. Remember, Ghost Babel is a non-canon spin-off explicitly not part of the mainline Metal Gear series, taking place in a separate timeline splitting off from the original Metal Gear's ending. Meaning this Jack character, while totally a real-world predecessor to the character we would later know as Raiden, is officially canonically a different character. But let's be real, nobody actually thinks that way. If Ghost Babel isn't listed as Raiden's first appearance because it's technically a different character, then I'm sure as heck certain Raiden's natural next step in life after Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance isn't to give himself a chibi mod and take on a black op to assassinate Bomberman. If anybody actually cared this much about the distinction between characters, there would have been absolute chaos as the internet raged against Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's false marketing campaign. everyone is here. Yeah, right. They didn't even get one of the most important characters in Smash history, Link. Instead, we got Link. Heck, we didn't even get Link. Instead, we got Link! And while we did thankfully technically get Link, we only got him once instead of twice. Okay, to be fair, Link might actually be Link. It's kind of inconclusive since Link is virtually indistinguishable from Link. All that is to say, things are getting weird. This video script is the hardest one I have ever written, being thrown in the trash at least twice over the years. There's just problems with the entire narrative, and I keep wibble-wobbling on what to think. Like, oh my god, the entire legend of Metal Gear Solid 2's pre-launch trailers is about how they hid Raiden's existence, but we already knew Raiden existed. But they did hide Raiden's existence within Metal Gear Solid 2, and that's the part people care about. This is the stupidest nitpick ever. But wait, no, you can't say they didn't hint at Raiden existing even in Metal Gear Solid 2. They hinted at him with a final line stinger at the end of the prior game. You can't tell me that's not a hint at a sequel. But Metal Gear Solid 2 isn't a sequel to Ghost Babel. Ghost Babel isn't like for reals the prior game. How can an explicitly non-canon game's ending be considered a hint toward the next canon game? He's not even named Raiden. We're talking about Raiden. This guy is named Jack, but Raiden is Jack. But none of this is actually confirmed as far as I can tell. So all of this is technically a fan theory, I guess? I know that Raiden's first appearance was in Metal Gear Solid 2. And oh my god, there it is. I meant to write Raiden's first appearance was in Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel, but I Freudian wrote in real time Metal Gear Solid 2. But that's not true! Raiden's first appearance was in Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel for the Game Boy friggin' Color. That is a fact. I don't think it's possible to convince the world. Raiden's Wikipedia page is going to say first appearance Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty for the rest of time, and we'd be lucky if Ghost Babel managed to get even a tiny, insignificant blurb 10 miles down the page. This video is completely pointless! Or at least that was my thought process. But then, wouldn't you know it, I made the critical mistake of actually watching the cutscenes of the video game I was talking about.
Who am I, really? No one quite knows who or what they are. The memories you have and the role you were assigned are burdens you had to carry. It doesn't matter if they were real or not. That's never the point. There's no such thing in the world as absolute reality. Most of what they call real is actually fiction. What you think you see is only as real as your brain tells you it is.
Then, what am I supposed to believe in? What am I going to leave behind when I'm through?
We can tell other people about having faith. What we had faith in. What we found important enough to fight for. It's not whether you were right or wrong, but how much faith you were willing to have. That decides the future. The Patriots are a kind of ongoing fiction too, come to think of it. Listen, don't obsess over words so much. Find the meaning behind the words, then decide. You can find your own name. And your own future.
Decide for myself?
And whatever you choose will be you.
I don't know if I can.
I know you didn't have much in terms of choices this time. But everything you felt, thought about during this mission is yours. And what you decide to do with them is your choice.
You mean start over?
Yeah, but clean slate, a new name, new memories. Choose your own legacy. It's for you to decide. It's up to you.
This entire video is about the identity of Raiden, and wouldn't you know it, one of the big things in Metal Gear Solid 2 is Raiden's identity. So here I am, making this video about Raiden's identity, and going on thinking in my brain, oh my god, it's so complex, I can't figure this out, I can't figure out this Raiden identity thing. Oh. Raiden sort of first appeared in Ghost Babel, but only sort of. And he sort of first appeared in Metal Gear Solid 2, but only sort of. Raiden was never even hinted at appearing in Metal Gear Solid 2 despite being its protagonist. But only sort of, because Raiden was directly hinted as being the protagonist of Metal Gear Solid 2 in the immediate prior game. But it's only sort of the immediate prior game. Raiden's first appearance, quote-unquote, in Ghost Babel is so vague and sort-of-ish that it doesn't even count. It doesn't count. But you can't just say it doesn't count. It happened. But only sort of. That's the twist. The twist is the sort of. Raiden's first appearance is so shrouded in who even knows-ishness that when the MGS2 lying trailer thing happened, of course everybody's gonna latch on to that story. But nobody is going to bother correcting that with a no. Actually, in the dumb, stupid, non-canon Game Boy Color spin-off at the very end of the extra minigame mode that nobody played, there's a little line of dialogue that says, a guy is Jack, and he's gonna be doing stuff soon. But, you know what? Screw it. This is something that I truly believe. Raiden's first appearance was in Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel for the Game Boy Color. And in that non-canon Game Boy Color spin-off that nobody cared about, before Metal Gear Solid 2 was even announced, they revealed that Jack would be making an appearance in it. And that fact isn't the greatest twist in video game history. The greatest twist in video game history is the fact that it's a lie. Special thanks to all Patreon backers, including Anon42, Leslam, Ikrira, Lively Leader, Alex Nelson, Vincent Hall, Rundum Goy, Nevermind, I can't come up with something better, Game Champ says trans rights are human rights, Salty Sweet, Crustacean Creep, Evil Game Champ is like Bad Evening Nobody, and Unwelcome Forward to WH Facts, the offline on-paper board game movie, Nathaniel Kalita, Jor, Brickface says, you think changing the vocal tier can stop my love and support? Arcombe, slowest game of chess, Black, Waiting on White, now I only want to triumph, what's that noise, 8-bit Mischievous, Attempted Wholesomeness, Literal Cat Mintleaf Wing Catgirl is gay and doesn't go to bed on time, reblog if you too are gay and or don't go to bed on time. Lily, okay, this might be too much underscore sap. Plesiosaurs may have given live birth to well-developed babies and were attentive parents who lived in pods. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. This is your reminder to take regular breaks when reading long lists of names. Doodlesack 12. Many sentences within program were of a dangerous length and were performed by trained vocal practitioners. Don't try at home. Trish Chandler. Robjections, words of wisdom for this week. You save your game, you save your life. F. Amadon, quiet mischievous. Darknit, frequently a doofus, occasionally an idiot, always a fool. Brisky, Lemon Planter, Ian Beck. Kierkev, Biohazard. Hey, is anyone missing an underscore? I found one under the rug. Fluff System, Chris Gooslin, Charles Surratt, Rasparrow. Sophia has transgender. Cody Merchant, Kirito 9979, Madison. Aussie, oi oi oi. Touchtone Banana Phone. Geyser says to please take care of yourself in these trying times. Everyone's favorite trans dragon girl and clan ghost bear McWarrior, Aurelia. Moomin Biscuit, trans rights are human rights. Fella. Ken of Red Lions, a shape-shifting mass of cinders and ashes. Morgan Duna Cassandra Nix, first of her name. Roll the Moth, the lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue, the tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips. Getsugaru, Love Story Gaming, TTV. I spent $10 so Mrs. Game Champ would tell you that I am live. Tater Tots from Hell. I'm a Game Champ inspired streamer also because. Celica, Stan's plaid jacket. Ray Danger, Kelzini, Awesome Games, Flames Hollis. Macaroni Cat personally endorses running away like a little sissy baby. Harry Stowell, Robin with a Y. Autistic Yu-Gi-Oh! Neo Sandman 4040. Philadelphos was a rude little man and would be even ruder in this day and age. Best we don't talk about him. Hailerin, Pokachap, Jinx Shadow, Alora Mora. Random Internet Cat is a random cat on the internet and should not under any circumstances be trusted to do non-cat things. Kimberly, the Gaming Bee, OMG Senpai, notice me. Daybreak, the Auroran Goddess, Legends Arceus, Nuzlocke Attempt 4, Scene 12, Take 40 Action. Eric Williams, Nicole the Gamer Girl, and Gamer Girl. Transient Faye. Tourbit, Zach Crowder, Gaming Medic, Queen Kenda. Zeta is pretty invalid. Zentil, Jane the Jane. Joshua Bennett, Lonely Agent J. Tash, maybe not Sand, pronounced with a Z. Wolfert Grayscale, the trans dragon ever. Mine Planet 84, Autumn Trickstar, the one free skeleton. Ah, Perry the Platypus, I see you've discovered my new Patreoninator. Does Miss Champ have any name ideas? I can't think of any. Halo Lucky, Captain Skelly, Grivel. Let's see how Game Champ pronounces Joyce UB, because I don't actually have a real pronunciation for it and it's vaguely Manu. Valkyrie Kanan, Skullduggery Pleasant, Starfish Attack. Kason Newburn lives to ride again, but unfortunately falls back into the crazy train. Idramian, Ella, Comrade Cookie Monster. Nobody can block the Emerald Splash. E, Shadow Fox 0002, Peerless Cucumber 9, Johnny Von Tungle, A Contagious Trip King Hazard. I'm sorry your hand is still exploded, Miss Champ. Please use these dollars to buy food. CK the Penguin supports Miss Champ and states that trans rights are human rights. Eden Os, Clayton can't manage their time, money, or gender. Johnson's Deli and Sausage Co. Undersea Rexy VT, Chocobo Stowe, Roxas Kuzunoha 13, and Malachi Atkinson. Let me know how much this video sucks and how to improve in the comments below. No, Ghost Babel was not a VR mission unless you subscribe to the idea Raiden was playing a VR mission as himself playing a VR mission and get out of my house. This is Did You Know Gaming's most recent video. Listen to this.
Nintendo games are great and all, but let's look at an often overlooked gem on the Game Boy Color, Metal Gear Ghost Babel. Ghost Babel, or just Metal Gear Solid in Europe, appears to have a character actually based on a real person.
Do you have any idea how scary that was for me?